Okay, yeah.
The
Okay, so I'm
adventure
going to count.
begins.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to count us down, and this is a bit you can chop off at the start that we can both do. So three, two, one. Hi, Angela. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really good. I'm really excited to be doing this whole process with you.
Me too.
Um, yeah, so I feel like we should tell people how we got together and how this all started. So um, this started when I think I was put in touch with you about doing the conference um, and taking an expert pod. And now look at what we're doing.
It's incredible how far we've come from that initial, do you want to come to our women's business conference to let's change the world and solve the funding crisis,
Totally,
including
totally.
mine.
Exactly, exactly. So it just shows you that the power of connection, the power of network, and you just never know where
Absolutely.
it's going to go. So I'm really glad to be doing this with you. So this today is the first of four sessions that we've got together. And when we talked about doing this, and I explained to you how I was helping prepare women-led businesses for funding, and when I talk about funding, I'm talking about everything from grant funding to in finance, debt finance to investment funding. Um, we thought that it would be a great idea to share this with people so that they have an idea of what goes on behind the scenes
Yes.
and needs to happen before you get to that point where you're actually in the room in front of people, or you've filled in your application form, or you're having the conversation that says, I'm I'm the person you need to put your money into. I come along for the ride.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, how are you feeling about this?
Super nervous. Um, yeah, because I've dabbled with this in so many different ways and done so many webinars, and
Mm.
every time just ended up at the same place. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm really doing this to challenge myself and hold myself accountable to push through and get to the result, which is funding.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm super excited, but also nervous because I clearly keep going around full circle and hitting a wall. So I've got to have to break through that wall.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're absolutely in the right place. My goal for you over the next four sessions is going to be that you understand the process, that you understand the different elements involved before you even get in the room, so that
Yeah.
when you get to the room, it's so easy to do. It's nothing scary. You don't feel like you're pitching. You're actually having the right conversation because you've done the work beforehand, and you're very strong on your proposition. You have a compelling story. You know, you've done your research, you know the numbers, you know exactly what finance you're needing and at what stage you need it at, which is more important,
Mm,
and how that is going to help propel your business forward. And also, from the other side, you will understand what it is that the investors can bring to this, and it's not just the money.
yeah.
So, with your permission, I'd like to share with you just how I got to this point, just how I started
Brilliant. Yeah,
sharing
absolutely.
this information with people. Um, oh, top secret there. Let's go back. So I was working for Edinburgh Chamber of Commerce. I was rolling out their business support framework, Circular Edinburgh, and it was an amazing role because I got to meet lots and lots of different businesses. They were innovative. They were looking to change their business model, and by design, they were looking to do it completely differently. And up until then, I'd been involved in board advisory work. I'd already, looked at the sort of the global challenges around business. But what this did for me, it really, really cemented that what I absolutely love is to create
Mm,
rather than compete. And what I mean by that is if I'm out there and I'm constantly going, how can I just be better than the next person? I'm really focusing on the next person and not on what I can bring to the market. And so when I set up my business, I was really, really keen that other people, other women-led businesses didn't feel like they had to compete, that actually that they have these amazing ideas, that are really going to solve problems going forward. So when you and I started speaking, and your whole raison d'etre is to help other women-led businesses, it seemed like, well, at least seemed like a match made in heaven. And I think that's the first thing to say, isn't it? It's really, really important to look at the market to see what it is that you're wanting to bring. You know, how did you get into, where did your story start with Women's Business Club?
Oh, by accident, completely never intended on setting up another business. I thought my first business failed, and so I wrote myself off as a businesswoman. Like, I don't have an MBA, I don't have any training, and I tried to run a business and it failed. So I'm not a businesswoman, and that was my mindset. What I didn't know that I do know now is my first business was successful. I built a business, I exited, I sold it. Anyway, there's a whole long story why I thought it failed. But anyway, we won't go into that. But the Women's Business Club started very much because I firmly believe that if you have something inside you, it's going to keep coming up. It's going to keep coming to the top, you know. It's like one of those logs that you can't push down. It just keeps bobbing up. Anyway, and who I am and what I'm meant to do just will keep coming up. It's unavoidable in any context, in business, in, you know, I was helping my husband run a church, so in that context, in charity, like, it doesn't matter the context, even in my parenting. And so those key things kept coming up, and some of the key things are, I love connecting people. Yeah. Absolutely love saying, oh, you should meet this person, you should meet that person. I always do that. And then the second thing is, I always see potential in people, and I love to encourage that potential. And those are the two key things that I think makes up who I am. And you can't escape who you are. You can try, but it's exhausting. And so Women's Business Club came very naturally from what I was doing previously that was not for profit. And I just naturally wanted to connect women in different settings. Mums or wives, you know, just like, oh, let's get together, let's support each other. And so Women's Business Club was just another, oh, businesswomen, let's get together, let's support each other kind of thing. Absolutely no intention of setting up a business, but it took me a while to realize that I am a businesswoman and I'm really good at business. And I've just got to keep doing what comes naturally to me. And so when I realized, actually, this is who I am as well, I am a businesswoman, then I started investing in educating myself and learning about business. And I realized that you can even be good at something, but if you don't educate yourself, you're not going to get very far anyway. So this funding stage is almost like a natural next step for me. I need to educate myself about this to take my business to the next level. It's going to take more money than I can generate right now. And so I've got to get funding. So that's kind of like a really condensed story of the last 10 years. But here I am, a businesswoman, and I love it.
Brilliant. So that's fantastic. So I love to hear people's stories. So even though I'm the one sort of doing the session, I love to hear where people have come from, because it gives me a real insight. And I think you've nailed it there. It really is about supporting people going forward. And I guess that's why we decided that we would share this with the wider membership, because want to just, you know, my goal is also to dispel a lot of myths around the whole process. And that and I think you nailed it there. You know, sometimes people don't feel like business women, but actually what we have is an amazing idea. We've looked at the market, we could see that there's a gap. We've sat there and went, I could help them. Which is what happened for me. You know, once I'd left the chamber and I was looking around for what I wanted to do, I kept coming back to, well, first of all, I kept coming back to the bit that really, really lights me up, which was taking people's business ideas and transforming them into something really tangible. And the other thing I absolutely love to do is that looking at the market actually gives me some ideas that I can then pass on to people. And it's that external perspective. And I realized that that's what I was really good at. And so that's why I set up my business, so that I could change how we support women going forward. So what I'd like to do today, because we could sit and talk about how brilliant the network is and the ecosystem is for Women's Business Club, and anybody that's watching this, if you're not a member, I know a lot of you will be, but if you're not, really do consider it. You will get more out of it than you can ever think. And I speak from experience. So thank you so much for my experience, Angela. It's been amazing.
Oh, you are.
So today's session is called Stop Leaving Money on the Table. So I really want to start off with money. It's a weird thing, money. There's a real fixed and strange mindset around, I have noticed. And I want to just put this up here because money's just the tool. It's going to take you wherever you wish, but actually it's not going to replace you as the driver. And when you have a look at that, Angela, what does that prompt for you? What thoughts come to your mind at this point when you read that?
I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind is that there's a responsibility on me, to use money effectively. It's a tool, it's a vehicle, it's not the driver. And so, money won't solve anything unless it's managed properly, unless it's directed effectively, unless it's driven properly, So that's kind of what that sparks in me.
Yeah. And I think you're right there. What I've also noticed is that some people have very fixed ideas about how money is the root of all evil. I don't know about you when you were growing up, but when you're growing up in Scotland, there's particularly through the hard times that we had through the 70s and the 80s, money was seen as a dirty word almost.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of women-led businesses. I think they struggle with asking for money.
Absolutely. I've seen that.
And so that's the bit I'd like to have a look at to start with, and just kind of try and help people reframe how they think about money. For me, money it's an energy. It's an energy of exchange. And I want to give you an example. So let's use my membership to Women's Business Club. So I pay my membership fee. Okay, you can then use that membership fee to pay your marketing person to tell more people about Women's Business Club. So my membership fee has now just sort of doubled in value in the sense that you've used it again. Then more people, then that money then gets used to pay your marketing person. So there's a third value that's brought, if you like. That marketing person then goes and purchases something else. And all of a sudden, the money, the initial, let's say £100, has now got a value of sort of £400 in the economy.
Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
And if we didn't use, I'm sure, back in the day, it used to be, can I be a member of your gang? I'm going to give you 3 loaves of bread. And that's great. But the value would stop when you ate the bread.
Yep, that's so true.
Yeah. Whereas, at least for money, the value can continue to go on. So that's the first thing I want to say, is that money is like an energy of exchange. And actually money is simply a way of helping you get to your goals. How are you feeling about that? How does that make you feel?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I quite enjoy working with money anyway. Like, I find it, I enjoy numbers, and for me, money's just numbers. You've got to be clever with it. So, I like the way you think about it. The way it's growing in value and adding value. That's quite that's a new concept I haven't considered.
Yeah.
No, good.
Yeah, and I think what I've seen is that many businesses all over, many startups, particularly organizations in the third sector, who feel that they're doing business for good, which is amazing. But at the end of the day, they still need to have money in order to achieve what it is that they're looking to do. Exactly. And so, it shouldn't be a dirty word. It is a tool. And what I'm seeing is more and more sort of social enterprises are now starting to see that. And it's actually opening up the possibilities for them.
Yeah.
So I want to dig in deeper to this. So the first thing I'm going to say, and the first thing that I have seen because of all the businesses I've worked is that having money is actually going to help you make more money. So what I would say is, who sometimes thinks like, I don't want to ask anyone for anything. I want to do it on our own. I think there's a lot of women who feel that way. I know I used to. Hi, I'm woman, hear me roar. I can do it all by myself. I don't want to ask for money. But I tell you what, when did somebody ever make us feel that way, that we had to do it on our own? That money was an evil, as it were. Where did
Yeah,
that come from?
no idea. It's a real
Yeah.
problem in business, especially in women.
I think so. I think so. And another reason is, okay, if I've got to get that money, I don't want to pitch. But the thing is, every time you're talking about your business, you're pitching. It's a conversation about your business, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess that's the other thing. And if you're strategic with it, actually, you're going to do well. The other thing is that funding actually reduces the risk in your business. And this is
That's
something that,
interesting.
let me go into this a little bit more. When we set up, you remember when you set up and I set up, we put in our own money. We will have put in our time, our effort, our sweat, our tears, but we will have also put in our own money. And that can leave us quite exposed. We've maybe asked friends and family for money. That can leave us quite exposed. But if
Yeah.
we go and obtain funding from elsewhere, it actually reduces our personal risk.
Hmm.
And I think, that's something that people maybe haven't thought about that. It's if you secure some external funding, then you are reducing your personal financial risk. And actually, it can provide a cushion for those unexpected expenses, which again reduces the risk of your business going under. And let's face it, we've not had our troubles to seek, as they say where I come from, over the last 2-3 years. So de-risking a business is really quite important. It's one of the main things. And cash flow is one of the main problems for a business, which goes back to when you have money, you kind of you get attracted to it. The other thing is, debt is not always a dirty word. And I think you have a story around that where you learned that having some debt wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Could you
I
share just
think
the highlights of it?
actually it was Sarah Eddy who opened my
Mm.
eyes to that. Obviously she's one of our members as well, and she's an accountant and a tax expert, and so I often talk financial things with her. And she just said, and I was like, oh, debt, I fear debt, and I don't want to have debt, and I spent years personally struggling to get out of debt, and I had this whole like negative mindset around the evils of debt. I even raised my kids never get into debt. It's like the worst, and like that's just what I believe to be true. And then Sarah said to me, no, not all debt is bad. And then she explained why. And that just blew my mind. I'm like, oh, that's very clever, actually. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to start trying this. And since I've been using debt and raising funds in that way, I've absolutely seen it as a tool.
Yeah.
It's just everything boils down to wise management, stewardship.
Yes.
And that part I'm good at. So now it's just a case of getting the money in and managing it effectively so that it grows. And then debt can be a very clever thing. I think I would still caution people who are not good with the management side of debt. I would still caution them, because then they're just, digging a hole for themselves. Yeah. I think it's good to be able to manage and know how to work with money before you start getting debt. But that's the only thing I still stand by. But in terms of debt not being a dirty word, that was a game changer for me. Having access to more money, the more money I can get, the more my company can grow, the more women I can reach. And I don't care where that money comes from, or money, whatever the source, is going to help me achieve my goals faster and help more people. If you wanted to add, there's good that comes of having any kind of money. And that's the other thing. I can almost be damaging other people's chances because I'm too scared to take on debt. But actually, the more money I can get in, the more I know that I'm going to be putting out for the benefit of all the women in my community. So anyway,
Yeah. No, I agree. And as we say, just to caveat this, we're not saying that people should go and take out millions of pounds of debt. What we're saying here is that, there are options. There's the overdraft facility. That is a form of debt. There are loans. There's invoice financing, which, is you sell your invoices to another company, they collect the money, but they buy the invoices from you for a certain amount,
it's strategic debt, isn't it? It's strategic. It's not just, yeah.
And there's a couple of things I want to say about this. First of all, it means that, one of the reasons that women are saying that they didn't want to look for funding is that they want to make all of their own decisions and not be beholden to anybody. And I absolutely understand that.
Yeah.
When you go down the sort of more debt financing, then you retain 100% of your business. However, you are beholden, obviously, to the person that you have to pay the money back to. What I will also say is, and again, we've mentioned Sarah, I'm going to mention Sarah again, she's our amazing tax accountant, is that, first of all, debt, the interest on debt is actually tax deductible. So, you can reduce your overall corporation tax by the interest.
Wow, that's also interesting. People don't consider that.
Yeah. And therefore it can make debt perhaps the more attractive option to equity in some cases.
Yeah.
But, for those that are looking for equity, what I will say is, remember, when they're putting money into the business, they're actually buying a share of your company.
Yeah.
And it can actually help increase the value of your company. So if they want to give you 100,000 for 20% of your business, first of all, they've just valued your business at 500,000, which is amazing. Secondly, you've still got 80%. So you still have control. And the other thing is that they can bring in mentorship, guidance, because a lot of people that put money into other businesses have actually been there before. Not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot of experience to share. So that's why I'm saying, it's not always a dirty word, and some people look at having equity finance as a debt because at some point they're like, well, I'm taking the money now and I'm going to buy them out later. What if taking the money now meant that you could be bought out in 3 to 5 years for 10 times the amount your business is?
Yeah.
And
it all boils down to mindset again, doesn't it? How you think about these things.
Yeah, for sure. And the very last thing I want to say before we really get into the nitty-gritty today is funding's not just for tech companies. I've come across this that, a lot of professional service businesses are like, well, why would I approach anybody for funding? And what I'll say is, well, perhaps it's because you want to take on a lot more staff. It might be that actually you want to expand. One of the ways you can expand is to buy another professional services business. So and you might not have a spare, 500,000 in your back pocket. So looking at financing for that would help you do that. And then you've instantly got a whole team, you've got a client base, and you've just, doubled, tripled, quadrupled your potential going forward. So there are other sectors that would absolutely benefit from it. Fashion or retail firms, manufacturing firms, investing in the latest technology in order to be more efficient in how they produce their product, that needs funding. So again, it's not about being a biotech company or a software company or health tech company. That's where that's where funding can come in and actually help, again, allow them to progress. And it might be that they are looking to be more sustainable. And in doing so, they need to change from the big clunky machinery that runs on diesel, fuel, oil, whatever it is, to something that's a lot more eco-friendly. That requires investment, but they'll get that back. The well-being industry, they are actually amazing at sort of risk management because they have to weather all sorts of downturns, and again, if they have some funding in their back pocket, that might help them with their long-term viability because they've got some working capital to keep them going through the more difficult times. So I just want to say that, first of all, having funding can actually lead to more money That, you know, debt's not always a bad word. That funding's not just for tech companies, and that every business could look and should look to see how having some extra funding could improve their business. So yeah, that's the mindset bit. And if you want to go into that deeper, you know, there's lots of help out there. Mindset coaches. I'm not one, but I can help people reframe it. There's actually even money mindset people.
Yeah, there's quite a
So
few people doing that as well, I've seen.
yeah. So now that we've gone over where money is, what I want to say is, tell me your absolute goal for your business. Now, before you just blurt, what I want to say to people is, when you're thinking about your absolute goal for your business, I'm not talking about what you think you can do. You know, so I don't just mean I'm going to increase my membership by 10, 20%, because you're totally capable of doing that. Okay, that's something that you could do. It's your skill set, because you're a connector, you're a super connector. So that one's an easy. If that's what something you want to do, get it written down, get it done. The next one up is, actually, I want to increase my marketing team so that I can reach more members. Okay, that's going to take a little bit more, but that's going to take some funding, and that's great. But actually, you still have the skill set to do it. It's still an easy one to do. Once, as you say, you do a bit of management and you figure out how you're going to fund it. What I'm talking about is what I call a C-type goal. And anybody that's done any money mindset, or some people have done, there are programs out there that really go deep into what's going on in your subconscious. What is your C-type goal? And I call C for challenging, because what is going to challenge you? What is the golden ring for Women's Business Club? So for me, I'm like, this year, it's a go big or go home. I want
like
to
that.
10x my business. I'm looking to run a 3-day virtual event around business growth in the spring. I want to publish a second book. And that's me just getting started. Okay, so those things, I haven't got the things in place right now to make that happen. But I need to aim towards that, because I know that those are my C-type goals. So for you, I want you just to take a wee moment, write some stuff down, just a couple of minutes, and write it down and think, what is my C-type goal? What if I had nothing holding me back, what would I want for Women's Business Club?
Okay, I think it's quite easy. I think the absolute goal would be to be the go-to place for professional women across the world.
Okay.
So if anybody's in a business or a career and they need support, they need education, they need community, they want to know how to start, they want to know how to exit, across the board, it will be Women's Business Club that people will recommend, or it will be Women's Business Club that comes up on SEO, or it will just be, you've got to go to Women's Business Club. And that would be the big goal. If we could achieve that and get in front of every businesswoman across the world, every woman trying to progress in a career, they won't all want to use us, but we want them all to know we exist. So we really want it to be like a household name. You know, like you get your Apples and your Dells, like everybody across the world knows that brand. So perhaps you would change it to be a recognizable, known and recognizable brand rather than the go-to place.
Yeah.
We could fiddle with the words, you know, that's just semantics.
Well, we're going to fiddle with those words today.
Okay.
We are going to fiddle with those words today. But what I want to do is, first of all, I want to get a feel for just how big you can aim. And it's not about pipe dreams. It's actually about proper, where do you want this business to go? So I'm going to just again, this is about going into the deep-rooted beliefs around money and about our capability and what we give ourselves permission to do in life, and how perhaps we maybe allow other people to dictate what we're able to do in life. So, you know, what are you prepared to do? You know, you've said, let's just go with, you know, the household name, the known and recognizable brand. What are you prepared to do? What are you prepared to do?
So I think, first of all, I used to giggle at the thought of saying global brand, but now we've built, over the past 10 or so years, we've built systems and we've built a mission that truly can cope with that level of growth. If say we had the funding, because it's all about funding, say we got the right funding in and we could put our scaling plans into motion, then we are ready and we could cope with serving businesswomen in any country across the world. And so it's no longer a pipe dream. It's a genuine goal. I may or may not get to see it in my lifetime, and I hope others will, you know, take the baton after, but it's definitely possible. So let's say to be a recognized and trusted brand for professional women across the world.
But what are you prepared to do to get that? And the reason I'm saying is because for a lot of people, sometimes they put barriers in front of themselves. I can't do this because I won't be able to achieve this because. So again, I want to turn that around and say, what are you prepared to do to get where you want to be?
Yeah, it's too broad to answer the question, because the obvious answer is anything, you know, without breaking the law, anything. And so how do we break that down? Because seriously, looking at what we've done anything, you know.
Yeah. So okay, so let's take this, as you say, let's start breaking this down. So your absolute goal is, and we're just going to go with this just now because we're going to dig into the words in the next section, is your absolute goal is about being the household name, the recognizable brand. But so what will the actual funding do for your business? Not about where it's going to take you, but what it's going to do. So when you think about, if I had another, and let's go for a 200K in your business, what would you do with that 200K? Would you expand your business operations? Would you hire additional staff? Would you invest in research to improve products and so? I mean, what would you do with another 200K? So you know, just firing out, you know, it doesn't have to be in any kind of semblance of order right now. It's just what's coming to mind.
Yeah. So the first thing would be advertising. The second would be marketing. The third would be staff. To cope with the growth, we need more people. And then the fourth would be systems. So just investing in our systems.
Yeah. Okay. So why in that order?
Because we can cope with growth at the moment. What we need is more incoming business. So advertising would come first. We need to, in order to be that household name, we need to be in multiple channels. And so at the moment, we're exploring TV advertising with Sky TV, and just looking at cinema advertising. And so looking at getting out in more places. So advertising would be a significant chunk of the investment. The more money we could get in, the more we could become that household name. And then obviously we would have marketing to support that. And then we would increase our staff because the numbers would justify it.
Okay.
And then obviously the systems after that, I think systems are something that should always be improved and developed to be more streamlined. You know, it's like a car. You've got to send it in for your service every so often. And sometimes you've got to replace the whole car. I think business systems, it becomes dangerous if you just say, oh, it works, let's leave it forever. So I would always improve the systems once there's significant growth. I would get a tech expert in to say, right, make us more streamlined. Let's get rid of you know, all those little all that wiggle room for error. Let's reduce that, etc., etc. So that's kind of the order I think I would go in.
Okay.
And to be honest, that's the order we are going in now anyway. I think funding will just amplify it. So we can do X amount of those 4 things based on our current budget. And with X amount of funding, we can then increase those efforts by X amount. So those are the variables. The more funding, the more the growth and scaling, the more the return on investment.
Okay. So again, I'm gonna be quite challenging on this bit, because it's really important that you know exactly what this funding is going to do. And the reason is you need to know what your ask is. And I mean, really need to know. So what I've got here is funding is going to amplify your growth by this much, etc. So that's what you said. You also said that you needed to get money in before you could get some more staff and get some more systems in, if you like. And remember, I'm doing this to be devil's advocate.
Yes,
so
please do.
Yeah. So I want to dig in more deeper. So funding is going to amplify our growth by what? Is it going to double? Is it going to triple? Is it going to 10x your business? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know the number offhand, but I do have the calculations in a spreadsheet. And so there's a direct connection between the amount of funding and the number, the scale.
Okay.
So if I just get 20K funding in, which is not going to do much at all.
No.
But if I just get that in, it will increase growth by a certain percentage. If I get 500K in, it will then, so it's all a percentage basis. It's all calculated at the moment on a percentage basis. So the more we get in, the more we're going to grow and scale. Yeah.
Okay. So what for me, right now, it's really important that you know what that percentage is. And I understand you've got it in a spreadsheet, but here's the thing. And again, I'm being challenging for the, just to bring home a point. You need to be able to say like that.
Yeah.
I'm looking for 50K funding because that's going to amplify my business by 40%, where I can have X number more, where I can serve X number more members. We can increase the products and services that we have. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
What you need, and one piece of homework I'm going to say from today, and for anybody watching this, is I want you to really challenge yourself on what the effect of this money is going to be. What is the outcome? Because if you go in and say, can I have 20K, 50K so I can spend this on advertising? They're going to say no.
Yeah.
Because that's if you say I am looking to 10x my business so that I can break into the Southeast Asian market and I'm aiming for 1,000 women-led businesses in the next 10 months, 12 months, 18 months.
Yeah.
So that I can transform their lives by X, Y, and Z. Want to come along for the ride?
Yeah.
You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
And then you will say, I'm part of that. Then when you break it down and say, we will need 50K for this, for staff, we will need 50K for advertise. This is my marketing. This is how I'm going to channel. This is where I'm going to put the money. And we're going to invest in a newfangled system that's going to do X, Y, and Z. Do you see how that's much better ask of funding? So when I say what will funding do for your business, I really do mean what is it going to do? What is the outcome? And in that one sentence, you sum up exactly what your ask is.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. I've got tons of notes, lots of homework.
Yeah. So that's homework number one for you. Is I want you to articulate your ask. And I do want it to be into numbers, statistics, To say a household name it's too vague, it's too broad.
Yeah.
Because by growing into all the different markets, you then become the household name. So I would like, and as I said, I would like 100K so that I can expand into Southeast Asia and provide services to 1,000 women-led businesses and help them increase their turnover 3x, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do this, I need to take on 2 new members of staff. I need to invest in new systems. And here is my advertising and marketing campaign. So what I've done is I've actually turned your ask around.
Okay.
How does that feel?
It feels right. It feels overwhelming, like sitting and crunching the numbers. I've crunched the numbers so many times, but to put it, I know the goal needs to be to get it as simple as you've just described it, but to actually get that is challenging. And I'll tell you why. I don't want to just do pie in the sky numbers, like clever numbers. Like I have to believe it to sell it. And I'm not the kind of person that can sell something I don't believe in. And so I totally get where you want me to get to. So I'm going to really spend some time doing that.
Yeah. And the thing is, they're only pie in the sky numbers if you've made a really good point there, is they're only pie in the sky numbers if you don't believe you can achieve it.
Exactly.
The reason, so there are 3 reasons that people don't achieve what they're going to do. 1, they don't believe in the offer. 2, the client doesn't believe in the offer. Or 3, you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And that they're all linked. And I can help with all of those things. The one I find, the one that I have no control over, for want of a better word, is the how you believe in yourself. What I can do is I can show you that you have the right skills, the right approach, but you are the one that has to say things. And I'm talking from experience, because you mentioned earlier on, I used to not be able to say this without giggling. Totally. It's only recently that I can say with a straight face, I want to 10x my business, run a 3-day virtual event, and publish my 2nd book without that deep-rooted
exactly
right? Or the who does she think she is?
Do you have any practical guides or spreadsheets or formulas to actually help people with these numbers? Because I know that I'm quite fond of fiddling with spreadsheets and stuff, but what about somebody who just gets totally intimidated by that? Like, do you have anything, or is there anything we should search for on the internet that will give us kind of a template for calculating these important numbers?
So what I would say is, and I say this to my clients, this is where your accountant can come in, because they will usually have, then we're getting into, cash flow, we're getting into, this is where the research starts to come in. So these numbers are pie in the sky until you prove that they are achievable to yourself, because then that is the basis of your pitch. That is the basis of your ask when you go into the investor, because they want to know, well, how are you going to do this? How do you know you could get 1,000 businesses? And that's where you've done your research for start and said, there are, again, I don't know the numbers, but I know that there are 1,000 new women-led businesses starting up every 3 months in Thailand, wherever it happens to be. I also know that they have this accelerator, that accelerator, they have this. What I also know is that there's a gap in the market here. So it's research is the first thing I'm going to say. As far as the number crunching, excuse me, cash flows, etc., then your accountant is a really good person to be with. I have a very basic cash flow template that I can use, but I usually defer to the accountant on this. I'm the business head, but I always have a number cruncher in my back pocket, because they are the ones, because it then gets into tax, etc. Plus, you will know what your running costs are, etc. So that's a really good exercise to do. Is once you know what you want to achieve financially, is to have your accountant help you put together those business modeling spreadsheets. And your bookkeeper can't do it, but your accountant can, and that's the difference there. So yeah.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
taking notes. Okay, cool.
Cool. Okay. So as I said, homework is to really just articulate your ask and what that ask is going to do.
Okay.
We mentioned earlier on about how you want to be a household name, and I said we're going to really dig into that. So a strong proposition, it's the backbone of your business. You know this, I know this, but I just want to say it out loud here. Helping you stand out in a crowded market and ultimately increasing your revenue. And let's face it, that's why we're in business, is to bring a strong proposition to market. The reward is the increase in revenue. Now, I'm not money driven in the sense of I'm not doing this to get lots of money. I'm doing this for the impact that I would like to see. So when I say 10x my business, it's not about going from, say, £1,000 a month to £10,000 a month. It's actually about being able to help one woman, and then I would like to help 10 women do exactly.
Yeah. That makes
sense. That's what I mean about 10xing. It's also about increasing the impact more globally that I would like to do. And that's where my 3-day event is going to come from. And also just sharing that wisdom. So when we talk about business, it's really interesting. We always talk about the business purpose. But I often, because I work more with the smaller companies, the smaller organizations, one of the things I do is I like to go back to what drives you? Because what I'll say is what drives you drives your business, particularly when you are an organization of less than 10 to 15 people. It's still founder-led, very much founder-led. So if I could just take a step back and say, what is it that drives you? What are you here to achieve? Have you ever thought about that? And if you could, how would you articulate that?
I gave it a lot of thought a few years ago when I was considering throwing in the towel, and I was like, why do I do what I do? Because I think every business gets to this point. You get so bogged down by the day-to-day that you stop doing the very thing that caused you to start doing it. Anyway, so I hit that wall and I was like, so why am I doing it? And it took me ages to figure out the true motivation, the true why. But I think for me, it's about the change. I'm motivated by the change, and if I can see that what we're doing is making a difference and bringing about change, one businesswoman at a time, that's enough for me. If we are just a business out there to make money, to, look successful, but actually we are hurting people in the process, or we're losing as many members as we're gaining, then for me, there's no point. I'm just going to stop doing it. And so when I really did some soul searching, every time I hear a story of, wow, Women's Business Club has really helped me, or wow, this has happened because of Women's Business Club, then I'm like, that's why we exist. And that's why I will bend over backwards to do almost anything. Even like during COVID, I was just telling someone yesterday, I didn't take a salary for 18 months. Because I believe in what we're doing. Whereas if you're doing it just for the money, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with earning a good income, of course, but if that's your only motivation, then I would not have stuck it out during the pandemic. I would have just got a job or started another business. And so I think deep down inside, as long as we are making a difference and we keep doing so, then I'll keep going.
So I want to get into this. So earlier on, I'm just going to type in what you said because I really want to dig into this. It sounds like such a cliche, but cliches come from somewhere. If you don't have a strong proposition, a compelling proposition, then whether it's grant funding or whether it's any kind of funding, you're going to struggle because people are literally going to go, so what?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can clearly define the problem that your product or service solves, if you can clearly define how you are the driving force behind this and how you are extending that to the team and how the business is worth investing in, you are much more likely to be successful. So you had said that that you want, now you've got to excuse my typing, everybody. Women's business. You see, that's because people are looking at business club to be a household name. Okay. To be a recognizable brand. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to really articulate that a wee bit more. So one of the things I say to people is we exist to so that and I'm going to put in brackets, this happens. Okay, so let's play around with this sentence. We exist to do what, so that you can do what, and then this happens. I am simplifying it down, and this is for everybody. It's a great starting point. Once they have that, they can, mess with the words. But you exist to do what?
So we exist to empower women to succeed in business.
Okay, so we empower women so that they succeed in business. And what else happens?
Well, the bigger picture is that we're bringing billions to our country's economies. At the end of the day, that's really what we want to be contributing to as women.
Okay.
But I think I'd take it back a little bit before that, so that we provide well for our families and bring billions into the country's economy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think especially for women, let's first make it a bit smaller before we go big.
No, I agree. That was what I was going to say. So let's dig into this a little bit more. I'm going to copy and paste, and what we're going to do is we're just going to edit as we go. So we provide for our families, excuse the typing errors, and bring in, let me just do the typing.
There are statistics around the billions that the country's economy is missing because of women who aren't succeeding in business. Those aren't the exact words, of course, but and there's 100 million businesses founded globally each year. 33% of female founders, and then 9 out of 10 startups fail. So we want to tackle that failure rate.
Right, now we're getting somewhere. So you said 100 million businesses
are started globally each year.
Founded globally. Okay. 33%
of female founders.
Female led. And 9 out of 10 fail.
Yeah.
Is it in the first year or in the first 3 years?
I don't know. It's just 90% of businesses fail. I think it's, I don't know.
Okay, it's worth finding out. And so actually what you really want to do is you want to decrease the failure rate.
Yeah. The reason I don't have that number to hand is because at the end of the day, we want to emphasize that 9 out of 10 are failing. The time frame is not the focus. It's the fact that they are failing at some point.
Yeah.
And so we want to bring that number, that failure rate down significantly. Obviously, our target audience are women, so that will be for female founded businesses, but still, there's a very high failure rate at the moment that needs to be tackled.
Okay, so I'm going to be again challenging on this. what I'm going to say is you actually exist to, I'm going to put it literally like this: decrease the startup failure rate for women-led businesses so that they succeed in business, bring in, so that they succeed in business, provide for their families, and bring in millions to their country's economy.
Or we could just say the economy, because it will be a local economy, a national, a global economy. It all has a knock-on effect too. So we could just say economy.
So their economy. Okay. It's starting to get really powerful now. It's starting to get really articulate. It's starting to get very pointy. It's starting to get very, there's the problem and we're going to solve it.
Yeah.
It's starting to get less broad. And so what I would like is homework number 2 is I would like you to play around with this to make it really, really pointy. And it's about how the world is going to look when Women's Business Club succeeds. And it could be that we exist to, in fact, I'm going to put down one more and then you can take that one away. So let's do this. We exist to ensure, no, we insist to increase the success rate of women-led businesses on a global level. So that they can provide for their families and bring in billions to their economy. Now, I'm not saying that's the answer, but do you see how it's now starting to be very focused?
Yeah.
So homework number 2 is to really get really pointy on. Because here's the thing, if you were to say, I love what you had at the start. What we've got at the end is something that people can relate to. The second last one, and and in fact, what you might even want to put is improve the 9 out of 10 failure rate for startup women-led businesses. That's again a lot more pointy.
Yeah.
And actually, when you're going to an investor and saying your 100K is going to help us decrease the 9 out of 10 failure rate for startup women-led businesses on a global scale so that they can provide for their families and bring in billions to the economy, they're more likely to get behind that than if we simply say to empower women so that they can succeed. And it's not because the second one is any less valuable. It is, but it's more about making, a stronger proposition, something that people can go, oh, right, so my 100 grand, my 50 grand is going to change that from 9 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. And that's what I mean about thinking big and doing it with a straight face. And Women's Business Club wants to decrease the 9 out of 10. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's your one-liner.
Yeah. I'm furiously writing notes.
Yeah. I'm going to send this through to you. So
yeah, I'll pick it up on the recording.
Any whiteboards that I redo, I'm going to send them to you. It's always good to take your own notes, but I will send them to you, and then you can just see what we're doing. So, I'm just gonna Women's Business Club is on a mission to decrease the 9 out of 10 failure rate of women led businesses on a global scale. So, as I said, homework number 2, proposition. Really nail it.
Yeah.
And that's where you can. So that's why at the start, I'm like, how are we feeling about money? What is funding going to do for you? Think big.
Yeah.
Think impact, think big, think what problem in the market are you really, really challenging, fixing, attacking, solving, all of those great. Because then what you can do is when you are looking to back that up, your research and the data and the evidence that you pull up is going to be very, very pointy towards this. Here is the data, here is the evidence. This is how we are going to be able to turn this around, or this is how we are working to turn this around.
Yeah.
And then you can get into, and we're going to do it by doing X, Y, and Z. Which then brings me to my next question, which is about not leaving money on the table. So now that you know that you are looking to reduce the 9 out of 10, how are you going to do that? How can you, as head of Women's Business Club, how can Women's Business Club, when you think of what you do just now, and you do an amazing amount, where do you see the opportunity to get that, to get moving forward? Because what I see is that sometimes the products don't reflect the true proposition.
Yeah.
Sometimes, in bigger organizations, it's not everybody's on the same page. That's a classic. It might be that, and again, with bigger organizations, they might be overlooking hidden costs or any fees, or there's a failure to negotiate effectively, or but for the smaller organizations, sometimes it's about not knowing your true worth and undervaluing the impact that you can have. And that comes right back to what we're talking about in the start, about how we feel about money as a tool rather than it being the root of all evil.
Yeah.
And when we go into things, if we have a win-win mindset by seeking mutual benefits, and I know that the conversations you and I have had, I think that you have that win-win mindset. But if you were to take a fresh bit of paper now and go, I want to reduce the 9 out of 10, how would you go about doing that? What's one thing, what are the things that you could do? And in no particular order. Again, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull up the whiteboard again. Okay. 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 Might be things you already do, but if you had a blank piece of paper, how would you go about doing this?
So I think the first thing we'd do is just research the top reasons why businesses are failing. And so we'd start with that. And then without doing any research, just based on our current knowledge, we've narrowed it down to lack of support, lack of knowledge, lack of visibility. And so we've built our offering around community, education, and champion. And those 3 things are key to getting more businesses supported. I don't know if you want me to break it down even further.
So again, it's just basically, research the top reasons. You've got, I stuck in lack of funding there. So what could you then do about that? How could you then approach those things?
So I think the first thing that we do, and we do really well, is community, because the support that women need, it's not come the best support women can get is not from any other one person, but it's from community, and it's about leveraging the wealth of expertise from the community and learning that way. And certainly in my own journey, my biggest growth spurts have come from being around people who have the knowledge that I don't have, and just learning from them, you know, kind of as part of the community. A lot less so than formal training, but just learning what I need when I need it at every stage of my business journey. So community, absolute key. Community is also key for passing business to each other. We pass significant business to each other through Women's Business Club in a very natural way, because when we get together for coffee and co-working, or when we get together for, you know, any sorts of events, it's natural that if somebody brings up, oh, I'm struggling with this, and somebody else says, oh, I do that, it's natural. It's a very natural way of passing business on. And obviously businesses are going to grow if they're getting new clients. And so community is powerful. You know, and what I've discovered most powerful in community is not even the tangibles, but it's more those little comments that another woman will make, saying, wow, you're amazing, or wow, I believe you can do this. And it's those little things that are game changers for helping women to push through the barriers. And so community I'm very passionate, as you can tell, about community and the power of community. So that's the one thing we do. Then the second reason most businesses fail, and funding will fall under this as well, but it's just education. You know, you've got to keep learning. You have to keep growing. Personal growth, business growth, you know, you've got to keep learning and growing. And so we do a lot of webinars, or a lot of education around all sorts of things. What we're doing today, that will get put under our education, you know, department. It will be, you know, if women are not getting funded, let's educate, you know, let's talk about it. Let's come up with courses and webinars and cheat sheets and top tips, etc., etc. So education, key to business success. You don't know what you don't know. So find out, you know, start educating yourself. And then the third thing is just, you know, we call it champion, but champion is very much about visibility. It's about not only getting women out there more, getting them shouting about themselves and each other. So we do that through our awards, we do that through our marketing and PR opportunities, we do it through our member platform. So it's very much about championing each other, acknowledging successes, celebrating, you know, business successes, but it's also about championing those in minority groups, those women who need even more support. You know, we're really passionate about looking at women who are not getting the opportunities. They're more disadvantaged than the average businesswoman, and make sure that we're championing them intentionally, making sure that we are lifting them up. And so those are the things that, and this is based on our 10 years of working in this, observing, testing and measuring. And so I can say that quite confidently, that's what we're doing well. Of course, there can be room for improvement, and I'm sure you're going to play devil's advocate and help me articulate it better.
Yes.
But I think these are the things that's a game changer. That I know will make a difference in businesses, in business.
And so those are I would say those are the outcomes of what you provide, and I think that, you know, I've written them down there, and that's fantastic. So I've done it. I've reduced it down to community. Well done. It's actually done well, I should say. Community done well. Education done well. And championing your fellow woman done well. I'm going to say your fellow entrepreneur, because just entrepreneur done well. And that's, you know, examples of how you've got it there. Again, it's about taking it down just another level, which is if these are the broad categories that things fall under, how is this going to make you stand aside, stand differently? What are you going to create that is different to other business membership clubs for women?
That is the hardest question. That's the one question I can never crack.
Yeah.
I think, let me look at our pitch deck. Let me do cheats. I think, so we've got a solution. Actually, let me read this. It could be interesting. We're on a mission to accelerate female-led businesses by increasing the success rate. So interestingly, very similar to what we've come up with. I'm just going back to our pitch deck.
Yeah, great.
So that's kind of good that we're on track. And then the 4 areas: access to opportunities, access to funding, platform-based community training, and skill share. And then I've got a little description for each of those. So I don't know if that's answering your question or not, if that's useful.
So yeah, so where I'm coming from now is so what sort of, so again, I'm going to be really sort of pointy and pushy. In fact, I'm not going to apologize for this. This is why we're doing it. This is what I do.
Exactly.
So there's a thing. Anybody watching this, don't say things and then apologize, because actually I'm just doing what I do. So what projects, I guess, is what I'm asking about, do you have on the go? Because what you've got there is the broad brush, which is amazing. It gives you the structure, the infrastructure, the construct, however you want to describe it. Community done well, education done well, and championing done well.
We've got to change that.
I'm going to have to come up with a better word because I can't even say it. So what sort, what projects do you have on the go that's going to help that? Now, I happen to have an insight, and I'm just going to call it the pitch perfect. To help more women access funding. Okay, what else have you got on the go that's going to help you achieve?
We're launching coffee and co-working for mums, because there's a childcare crisis at the moment. And so looking at having coffee and co-working events, so community for mums where they can bring their children along. And in some cases, we're actually partnering with a creche provider. They'll actually take care of the children, so you can actually have some grown-up time. So it can be either. So we're just looking at the current barriers that women are facing, especially with summer coming up here in the UK. Looking at how can we support more working mums, because they're contributing or potentially contributing billions to the economy as well, and their businesses aren't quite succeeding because they've still got little children. And so that's something we're doing, coffee and co-working for mums. We're doing Pitch Perfect. And we're going to keep doing that, not just at the conference, but we're going to keep doing sessions like you and I are doing. We're going to do a nice training course with you. We're going to do whatever we can to help get more women comfortable with money and accessing funding, but also to increase that 2% number. Only 2% of female founders are being funded. Let's put that all the way up to like 40% or something crazy. What else are we doing? Projects. We are working on launching 1,000 coffee and co-working events across the country, but this is now rolling out in other countries as well. And what we're working on there is reducing isolation in business. So post-pandemic recovery strategy, let's get back out, meeting up in person and supporting each other. And so sometimes I get requests for, oh, can we have a Zoom event? I said, no, that's not the point. The point is meeting up in person again. So we do Zoom events. I mean, look at us. Zoom is brilliant. You're in Scotland, and I'm down in the southwest. Zoom is great.
But we did get together at the start of May when we were working on how this was going to work for you and I.
And that was so much more fun.
It was, and I loved it. And I don't want to sort of jump to cliches or stereotypes, but I got so much done in that 36 hours that I was away from home, more than I would have gotten done here, because I came down in the morning, we had our day together, you went off and had a lovely boat trip with your husband. I went and had an amazing full body massage, which
Woohoo.
completely de-stressed me. I then had dinner with my friend. On the way home, I caught up with coffee with another friend. And I actually, and I still had a lot of time to focus on the project that we were pulling together, how I was going to serve you, take down my notes, read a book, have a glass of something cold. But it was because I was in front of you. It was that person to person.
Yeah.
And it's just different. And I think you're right, to have something that reduces that feeling of isolation.
Yeah. And there's actually science behind it. And I'm not even going to attempt to quote the science, but there's a lot of science behind what happens when we connect in person. And there's even more about when women connect in person, and like the oxytocin and all the different hormones that's released.
Yes.
It's fascinating. This is not just, a fun social, let's get together, but actually when we meet in person, it affects our chemistry. It is powerful, and I really need to learn the science so I can properly quote it. But I had an expert once tell me, and I was blown away at, wow. Anyway, we're going totally off track. So I think those are our main projects at the moment.
Yeah. Well, we have and we haven't, because here's the thing. Your projects actually, and I'm going to challenge you this, your projects are actually your goals, your business goals.
True.
And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to link that back to, I would like 200K from you because I want to launch 1,000 coffee and co-working spaces for working mothers to help address the childcare challenge and reduce isolation.
Yeah, true.
How powerful is that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so true. The problem is, and all business owners will find that you're so familiar with it, and you say the same thing so many times, it sometimes loses its meaning. Like, it just rolls off the tongue because you've said it that many times. But actually, you're spot on. You're right. An investor would get so much value from investing in our mission.
Yeah. And then, if that's what you went in for, your ask is actually, that's why I want, 50K, 100K, 200K, whatever it is. We are looking to decrease the 9 out of 10. We have our flagship project, which is launching 1,000 coffee and co-working spaces in the UK and South Africa in the next 6 months to help address childcare challenge and reduce isolation. Do you see how you think we're just having a conversation? But from what you're saying, I'm saying it back to you, but it's important, hear the difference.
Yeah. Wow, I'm writing tons of notes again, excuse me.
Yeah. So again, just so I don't lose this, we are asking for, and I'm just going to say 50, it might be more than that, to launch 1,000 coffee and co-working, working spaces for mothers to help address the child care challenge and reduce isolation. For heaven's sake, Aileen. I'm going to say in, and I'm just saying this, and you can change it. There's two just right. So all of a sudden, you now have a strong, clear, articulate purpose for existence, for your ask, for direction of Women's Business Club. From this, you can set a goal, you can set metrics, you can do your research. Do you see how it then filters out into everything? Your team know that we're actually, it's not just about reducing the 9 out of 10, it's we now have 100, we now have 200, we now have 300, we now have 500. We've just hit the 1,000. Now, as a business, you need to decide. Now, I've given you some options there, and you know, again, we need to we'll look at that before we finish today. Which, you know, which one? Well, you've got some homework as well, but
Loads.
lots of homework. It's about the proposition. It's about the ask, and I've given you some options. And what I will say to you is, you are amazing. You can achieve anything you want to, but you have to pick one thing to
Yeah,
begin with.
so true.
It's really hard when we are all so amazing and so highly capable, but you have to pick one thing. Because when you pick your one thing, you become laser focused. And some people go, oh, you shouldn't ignore all the other stuff. I'm going to challenge you on that. And I'm going to say, you will not achieve very much if you are spinning 27 plates trying to achieve 27 great big projects.
Oh,
What
so
you
agree.
can do is you get one project up and running and it's running really well, and then you look at the next one. And what happens is you then have a very clear pathway as to going forward to do the and you know, so your construct, as I said, is community done well, education done well, championing done well. How
Yeah.
you're doing that is that you're launching the Pitch Perfect project, you're launching 1,000 coffee and co-working spaces, and it might be that, and the other thing is, and I know this because I know your business, is that you have a franchise model. So one of the ways that you can help expand your legacy, your impact as the leader of Women's Business Club is to have a franchise somewhere. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
So that's the bigger picture there. You know,
Yeah.
that's how you're going to achieve the big goal that you want to. So that's why I said very earlier on, what are you prepared to do? What does that look like? You've got to pin it down so that you can say to anybody, what you know, you're very clear.
Yeah.
How is this making you feel? What are your thoughts?
I feel more focused. I also feel like I've got a hell of a lot of work to do now. That's okay. It's all good. I'm less discouraged than I thought I would be. I thought it would be like, I'm useless, I'm nowhere. But actually, just
No.
talking through it with you, I think we've come quite a long way.
Mhm.
But I do see the areas now that I can fine tune and really, get more focused on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, it feels good. It feels like I'm more in control of the process. I also
Mhm.
feel actually quite encouraged that we've got a lot right already. And I don't know about you,
Mhm.
but always so hard on myself, and I always see the things I'm getting wrong, forgetting how
Yes.
much I got right. But running
Mhm.
through it with you today
Mhm.
has just helped me realize how much we actually are getting right. We're not nowhere.
Yeah.
Um, but we're not where we want to be. And I think that's one of the frustrations of an entrepreneur, isn't it? It's like you're never
Mhm.
where you want to be anyway.
Yeah. And we're always full of ideas, and these ideas are great. And you mentioned about, the way your brain works, and my superpower is actually being able to see the opportunities and the gaps. And gaps to me are not negative. Gaps are simply the things that you haven't gotten round to doing yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
And often is the thing that is actually if you just move that aside and you went that way, you would actually get further. That's what I can do. And when you know, and I say this to anybody watching this, and I say this to you, when you know what your thing is, it makes everything else easier to follow through. And it is that validation, and it is that growth, internal growth, and it is that I am actually able to achieve what I want to. And in fact, I'm only just getting started. And I don't know about you, but I definitely feel like that in my business. I'm just getting started. I'm in my
Yeah.
4th year now of this business. I've had other businesses, but and it's like I'm just getting started. And I feel
Yeah.
like you're just getting started as well.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Brilliant. So you're absolutely right. We have actually covered quite a lot. Um, in the last, well, it's an hour and a half we've been doing this. So what I want to do is I'm going to stop sharing. I will send this through to you. Okay, so don't worry about that. And just, I'm going to reshare. Because this is actually what we've covered today, which is why funding is going to be a game changer for you. We talked about how you feel about money, what it means to have money. We busted some myths around money and hopefully reframed that it is a tool, and how it can be used for good. We talked about how a strong proposition is the backbone of your business. And what we did was we actually took your very high level, broad statement that was a fantastic starting point, and we just narrowed it down and articulated it and articulated and articulated it. So, and we got right down to what a project that could be looking to be funded could look like, which is your 1,000 co-working spaces.
Yeah.
And then and that's because we looked at, and I call it don't leave money on the table. And that comes from everything from making sure you're negotiating correctly, but actually it's about making sure you've got the right product and service that is going to help you fulfill your strong proposition, that is going to be funded. So do you see how we've managed to weave everything together there?
Yeah, yeah.
And so taking the action. So I've given you two pieces of homework. One was to really articulate your ask, and the other one was to really articulate your business proposition.
Mm.
And I think, I could give you other things to do, but I think if you can get those two, the third thing is there another one project that comes out? Because you've got two really strong projects there. You've got your Pitch Perfect and you've got your co-working space.
We've got our awards. We've got our conference and our awards, which is probably the biggest of all of our projects. So the awards, we have two different types of awards. So we have our global awards, and that's where we really reach out worldwide. And then we have our SME awards, which is in person at each conference. And so I don't honestly think we could cope with any more projects than
No, that's great.
Yeah.
But like you say, it's the validation thing of actually, if we focused on those three things for the next 12 months, 12 to 18 months, making it the most amazing awards on a national and international level, reducing the 2% to increase the awareness of funding and the benefits of funding, and then your co-working space. If you made those three things your focus over the next 12 to 18 months for your business, that is more than enough.
I think so too. And interestingly, I've just written it down, but it falls very perfectly into our three categories. Community education champion. We've got coffee and co-working is building the community. We've got Get Pitch Perfect, which is building, it's the education piece. And then we've got the awards, which is the champion piece. So actually, we're even more organized than we realize.
It's like I've done this before.
I know, right?
So I guess, in the last few minutes, do you have any questions?
No, I think
Comments?
my brain is fried, and I've got it all in my head. I need to go and kind of debrief pen and paper, do the homework, which I'm super excited about doing. And then I think maybe questions will come up as I'm doing that. But I honestly feel like I couldn't manage any more information anyway.
No, that's cool. That's cool. So I think that was about the right pace. I'm hoping it was the right pace for you.
It's really good. Thank you, Aileen.
No, you're most welcome. So you and I, we are due to get back together in a month's time. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't speak to you for a month. What I'll do is I'll actually check in with you in a couple of weeks to see how you're getting on with your two pieces of homework. And we'll put together a half an hour session. We will see where you are, see if there's any adjustments needed. And if you, in working on those 2 pieces, went, do you know what? Actually, here's the thing I've been missing. Never mind those 3 amazing projects that we had. This is the one I really want to do. That's cool. Okay. If it prompts that creativity, my mantra is create, don't compete. So if you can think of something that is actually going to be even more impactful, then we can talk about that. But again, if you feel like that works in really well, it works in with your 3 pillars, if you like, then that's fantastic. So
it works really well, actually. I'm super keen to go and work with it.
Brilliant. So I guess we come to the end of our session. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. And I look forward to the next one because I'm going to make some real progress.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, take good care.
Bye.
Right, so I'm going to stop.